and like or unlike every software person coming from IITs, I mean that was a standard route that I was taking. With my eyes and ear open, saying that is there any kind of a by-lane where I can just take a left or right turn and start on my own? But apart from that, I think in the United States I got a lot because I think getting my funding for the first project helped me also to boost my own confidence because that actually helped me to feel confident that in myself, saying that yeah, I can do something. I felt that yeah, I can develop the patents, I can actually build a product and can build a company. It was a venture funded company, so it was a paid ride. So whatever you do, somebody else lose, and whatever you get a credit. But apart from that, my second company is now invested by me and managed by me. So
what is the name of that company?
Opera Systems.
You manufacture those devices there in there?
Yeah, so Opera Systems has even a little bit more focus. So in addition to the cancer diagnostics, we also do healthcare, mobile healthcare solutions. So we build some of the solutions which are useful for running on the likes of iPad and iPhones. We also have a focus on the life science R&D, which focuses on the Human Genome Informatics project. Human Genome Informatics project is one of the project that all of you might have heard about, where the whole human genome got decoded, which essentially help to identify the possibilities of any of the diseases which are cross-correlated with respect to your genomic structures. Was that a little tough sentence I said? Probably everybody's very quiet. But then, apart from that, that human genome that got decoded created a humongous data. Now the question is that, yeah, I mean, I have a data, what am I going to do with that data? So the researchers started working on saying that, they spent like $1 billion in decoding the first human genome, but now they're saying that can we have a personalized human genome decoding? So why only to a billionaire who can do the human genome decoding? Even I'm a common man, I should also get my human genome decoded. Now the cost has to go down. The problem there again is that the cost can go down below 5,000 if there are more takers, but then each of us are going to create a terabyte of data of my own, and I don't know what does that data mean, right? I mean, I go to the genomic company and then they decode my genome and I say, yeah, I got it down, like, it's on my USB. What am I going to do with that USB? I mean, what does that mean? It's like all Greek and Latin to me. So unless and until there is a knowledge base, unless and until there is an interpretation tool, which can actually interpret that and tell me that I'm going to die on at the age of 48 or something, no tools can tell that. I think it's going to tell us only the probability of you encountering a disease. But then people will say, oh, my dad has hypertension and he is like cardiac patient, so be it. I mean, I spent like $5,000 in decoding my genome, and you're telling me again the same thing, that I'm going to get hypertension. I think the real crux there is in the specific diseases. So that's what I was talking to Dr. Madhavi also sometime back. There's one known case who has muscular dystrophy, and that's a kid who is like 10-year-old. Now, such kind of knowledge bases are very useful for those kids because when their genome got decoded, they could figure it out that a certain section, a certain part of that genomic structure was completely missing in that child, because of which certain proteins are not getting developed, and that's why he is getting into that condition. So since that is now objectively quantifiable, it helps a lot. So that's kind of a knowledge base that we are trying to create. So this is a project that we are developing with Stanford and Harvard, so they are two of our partners, and we are taking care of all the informatics part of it by leveraging our solutions that got deployed.
You acquired some companies so can you elaborate on that and how and why? And
yeah, so what happened was that you can always develop some solutions yourself, but there are also avenues where somebody already developed it, so might as well you join the hands and grow faster. So with the same aspirations, we acquired two companies, and so one of the company was focusing on management system, and another company was focusing on animal tissues, because now we are handling more of the tissues who are from the human perspective, but then there is also an animal market. So that's what is an expansion or the diversification that keep on happening. But you merge those companies and create your own big portfolio that addresses your customers faster, and then probably that investment pays off because then you get better returns quicker.
But is it on the R&D level at the high end, or how it works, all this combination of these 3-4 things?
So that actually adds to our portfolio. So like for example, some of the solutions we already built, but then for us to spend more time in building those solutions, getting it mature, getting it tested, so might as well get some company who has those products ready and might as well merge it with us. From our company's perspective, that helped us a lot to kind of expand our horizon from not from the only patient market, but also get into the animal market, because all the drugs are tested on the animals first and before they go to the human beings. So that also helps us to kind of get an opportunity into that chemical space.
So what is the life cycle for this? If you like a tissue of animal or whatever, so how that, with what kind of different technology
Okay.
you use, what kind of opportunities are there for Indian entrepreneur to create some maybe programs on that, or maybe some logistics, whatever, I don't know. I mean, from IT point of view, how you look at into this can be another opportunity, as a healthcare is a global opportunity for everyone, and how a technologist, even a software programmer can enter into this market, and how it can be helpful without having a technical knowledge from the biotechnology field.
Yeah, so vertical is biotechnology or the life sciences. So you do require the business knowledge. I mean, that's not something that one can actually go away with. But if you're really looking at this complete spectrum, like for example, in between the new disease like swine flu for that matter, right? I mean, everybody was running here and there, and people had no clue what's happening around. There are no vaccines available, no drugs available. So from all that perspective, the kind of research that happens, right from the genomic space, then the proteins, then the tissues. So they are actually trying to look at any of the disease maybe at the genetics level, which is more like a DNA. So I'm just trying to simplify it. And then they try to figure it out a drug molecule, which is at a protein level. And then they will try to test that molecule on the cell lines. So in the body there's tissues, and within tissues there are cells. So you try testing it on the cells, which is the closest to the human being. And then once that test is successful, then you go to the tissue, and then that is an animal tissue, and then the human, and then it gets into manufacturing. So in this complete process, there are a lot of avenues where there are some tools that are required in terms of simulation, some tools that are required in terms of testing, some tools in terms of data management, data correlation. There are a few tools that are required also from the manufacturing perspective. And then it also merges with your information technology spectrum, where you have CRMs and ERPs and so on and so forth. So it all depends on which kind of a pulse that you can get it and how fast you can get it. It's all about low-hanging fruits. I mean, whichever you get it faster, you enter into that. Right? It's like playing a video game, right? I mean, you enter into that door. So for us to kind of shorten the path of getting into the door, I think better business understanding is most important. And for that to happen, I think you need to be closer to the customers. So you need to know what customers are talking about. You need to know what are their pain points. And I think more than somebody visualizing and dreaming of a solution in a closed room, I would rather go to the customers and get into some user meetings and try understanding their problems, try finding out a solution for them, try figuring it out ourselves analytically and also objectively, saying that, why you think you are better, why somebody else is not better, why somebody has not developed a solution. Because while I was also actively involved in Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce Innovation Committee, when I was chairing that group, some of the proposals that were coming to us, where person says that, no, my solution is great. And I understand, because that's his or her baby, and they will always see that, oh, that's great. But why do you think it's great? Because from our perspective, it doesn't look like. And if you think that you have done something different that nobody has even thought about, be careful, because that may not be the reality most of the time. So I think such kind of the rain checks will surely help the entrepreneurs to figure it out, what's the right thing. And the probably second thing is that go close to the customer and find out a customer who is ready to believe in you. I think investors will come running behind you. If you have a story with a ready customer trying to believe in you. Customer may not pay that, that's fine. Because you can tell customer that, can you take it for free? Customer say, okay, perfect. But if he's ready to take even for free, it means that he sees some value in that. And I think that's kind of the first thing to kind of do the litmus test. Because otherwise, people will always be dreaming, saying that, I have done like an absolutely great idea. They may even file a patent on that. But then that remains on the academic side, because then that's like an academic interest versus a practical implementation of the same. That's what I feel. So.
One question on your Biomagine. It got acquired by Roche, right? So was it planned, or how it went through?
So I think as an entrepreneur, again, that was my baby. So it was tough to be dissociated from that. Again, with an Indian values and culture coming in place, it's like you're building a company. While you're building a company, right from selecting a chair, you're doing the work. It's not only technology, right? Even opening a bank account, and then creating even the hurdles in that, and then creating even the subsidiary in India. So it was like you create an attachment to the company, and then that attachment is an emotional attachment. Whereas Silicon Valley is all about professionalism. So professionalism requires you to be dissociated from your closest to your heart kind of a situation. Because if you are biased, then your decision making may be wrong. And I knew that. So when I started this, I had attended many of the TIE sessions. I knew this. People had told me several times, and they had told